Hello and welcome to Bothering Strangers with Max Herring. I'm Max Herring, and today my guest, he was an Olympic skier in 2006, an Olympic American skier in 2006, 2010, 2014, and 2018. He was the youngest American male to win an alpine skiing Olympic gold medal. He was the first man in 45 years to win three events at an Alpine World Championship in 2013. He was the first ever American skiing Olympian to win a gold medal in the USA Giant Slalom, which he did in 2014 in Sochi. And he was the first skier to win three consecutive world championship titles in Giant Slalom, which he did in 2013, 2014, 2015. My guest today is Ted Ligety. Ted, how are you?
Doing great, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm good. Did I cover everything right there?
You covered a lot, so I think you covered a lot of it. Yeah.
I had to write it down. There was no way I was going to remember all that off the top of my head.
Yeah. Yeah. And that more or less covers it. Yeah.
Yeah. And now for the last couple of years, you've been running your own company, Shred Optics, and you guys sell like outerwear, helmets, glasses for mainly like snowboarders and skiers, right?
Yeah. I started Shred in 2006, actually. So we've been going for 15 years now, and it's been a fun experience. We started out just with goggles. Really, the impetus for starting at the time was I didn't believe there's a brand out there that had the product that I needed from the standpoint of like a racing performance level, but also had the aesthetic of like for free skiing and snowboarding. You could cover all those bases. At the time, there was a lot of brands out there like racing oriented, super dorky. I would never be caught dead free skiing in them. And then there are like the free ski snowboard brands that were cool and stuff, but the field of view and some of the features weren't there for me to race. So I always, thought of, I've been tinkering with equipment my whole life and been thinking of ways to have a goggle company that fit my needs, would help me boost my confidence in the mountain, perform better, but also be psyched and confident in how they looked when I was out free skiing. And that's a big part of, I don't consider myself just a racer, even though like that's essentially like what I'm known for in the ski world. But I've always prided myself in loving to go free skiing and growing up in that world. And so that was really the impetus to start it. And then since then we've grown to helmets, goggles, sunglasses, protective gear for snow sports and mountain biking as well.
Biking as well, because you bike a lot like in the off season, right?
Yeah, I mean the kind of the founding story is Carlo, my partner. He had started a protection company a couple years before this, Slytech, and he's a materials engineer, and so our relationship was kind of fostered through prototyping in that world.
Yeah.
And he was out in Park City staying at my house around a mountain bike ride, and I was telling him about this idea for Shred, and that's kind of like how we got it going. So I spent a ton of time in the summer mountain biking. I love it. Growing up in Park City, it's one of the best places in the world to mountain bike. So that's something I'm really passionate about as well. And there's a lot of like crossover knowledge and know-how from the ski and snow sports industry into the biking industry. I mean, a lot of like the components are similar. And the know-how is similar. So it made sense for us to move in that direction because we're super passionate about it. And we felt like there was a need for us to fill, and especially in the protective gear. I mean, the Slytech, which was down branded into Shred for mountain biking gear for like knee pads and all that stuff is second to none as far as wearability, flexibility, protection. So a lot of the technologies we developed really fit well into that world as well.
So after a couple of years of working in Shred, and you like kind of like had developed these products and they've been tested and they were like, okay, they look good, they're safety. Were you seeing like a lot of like athletes just out there when you went to the World Championships or at the Olympics? You're like, oh, that's my product. Like that, like they're wearing my product.
From the get-go, I had a few of my friends that were on the ski team and some other people that are like in the ski and snowboard scene on them. So that was kind of like the initial people on them. But then within a year, like tons of little kids I'd see ripping around the mountain with them, especially like in the race scene, and just kind of snowballed more and more. So it's like, it's always a cool feeling to be out in the mountain and see people wearing the stuff, especially when they have no idea who I am. That's even better,
Yeah. Yeah.
like just standing in the lift line with somebody who's wearing a Shred helmet and goggles and they're completely oblivious to me. That's the best compliment, because then it wasn't just like buying it because they're a fan of me or anything like that. That they actually bought it on the credibility of the product and all that. So it's always a lot of fun seeing people out on the stuff.
So what's like what are the plans in the future with Shred?
We're still a really small player in this game. So I mean, really, like, we're a small niche player, but we have some of the best in class technologies. We have our lenses. We work with MIT for our contrast boosting lens technology. So we have some of the best lens technology out there. We have a few of our own patents for the protective side of things. So we're continuing like pushing innovation in our space and just trying to grow that, get the word out there. You know, we're all about just trying to, you know, boost people's confidence in the mountains, whether it's on a bike or skiing or snowboarding. And that's what we're passionate about. So that's what we're trying to do. And, you know, now that I'm retired from ski racing, I always say that like I'm involved in everything in the company, but I do nothing. So now I can be involved in everything, but then actually help with the execution of things as well. So, you know, when I was skiing as a professional, you know, being gone 6 months out of the year didn't lend itself well to executing on a lot of things. So luckily we have a great team of people doing that, but now I can help a little bit more on that side of things, which I'm looking forward to.
I always remember when I would bike as a kid, and it was just like on the street. I was like, ugh, with the helmet, you know? Like I had that same issue. I was like, must I wear it? Like I know it'll probably save me from like a concussion, but you know, I don't want to look like a noob.
Yeah. My parents put me in a helmet from when I was like 3 years old skiing. Like back then in the late 80s, nobody wore helmets. So I was very early in being comfortable wearing helmets. And now I feel naked if I don't wear a helmet. So I never, yes, growing up, like as a little kid, being the only person out on the mountain, like all the lifties would like slam the top of my head with their hand because it was like, oh, hey kid, like nice helmet, bam. And you're like, hey, don't do
You're the
that.
only one.
Yeah. But nowadays it's commonplace. I mean, now you're silly looking if you don't have a helmet at this point. And
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
there's like they're comfortable now. They're lightweight. Like there's no reason not to wear one. So yeah, I guess I was an early adopter on the helmet
Yeah,
side.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And and I always felt comfortable with them. So yeah. And luckily the industry's moved that way too, as far as a business standpoint, but also safety standpoint as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, it seems like in every sport. Like my parents talk about watching hockey back in like the day, like back in the '70s, and no one wore a helmet. And that's like, how can you not wear a helmet
Yeah.
playing hockey? You know. Uh, you mentioned retirement. So you competed in the 2018 Olympics, and you won a gold medal 2014. 2018 didn't go as well. You didn't even compete in one of the final events because you could focus on the World Cup. And you retired around that time. So what you had a long career, but what was the thought process going into like, okay, I think it's time to retire?
Well, I'm 3 weeks retired now, so very fresh on retirement.
I was gonna.
World championships this year in Cortina, where it was going to be my last race. Um, I have 3 kids at home, twins that are almost 8 months old now, and a 3-year-old. So just being on the road, like for this 6+ week stints, like a bunch of those in a row is pretty brutal on the family and tough when you have young kids. And so I just decided it was time. I couldn't really balance competing at the level I wanted to with the family life. So Cortina World Championships Giant Slalom was going to be my last race. I unfortunately hurt my back training a couple days before that, and ended up not competing. I'm having back surgery actually next week, so I've had back trouble over the last 5 years. But that unfortunately was the final straw, unfortunately. But I had already decided that I was done anyway, so it's an annoying finish, but something I had already come to peace with.
Okay, I want to apologize because I for some reason I mixed you up and I was like, why did I think you retired 2018? Even though I remember reading yesterday that you retired in February.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
my fault. What I mean, how many you competed professionally for over 15 years?
Yeah,
Um,
17 years in the World Cup.
yeah,
Yeah.
17 years. So, um, How many injuries do you think you had?
So like in the relative scheme of World Cup racers that have lasted that long, I've been like pretty good. I've blown out both my knees, but only had surgery on one of them.
Okay.
Had back surgery, but microdiscectomy, which isn't like a huge back surgery. I've broken my hands too many times to count and had a bunch of surgeries there. And like as I list these injuries, it sounds like really extensive. Like I've had like labral tears and stuff that I
Yeah.
had PRP injections for and this and that. So like a lot of like little things, but I haven't had that many season engine injuries. There's like really traumatic injuries where they put me off for a long period of time. So I was relatively lucky in that side. It's like what ended up like really hurting the most was on the chronic side, which was the back issues, and which is really common in our sport. You know, where
Yeah.
a GS turn is, 3 to 5 Gs every single turn, and you're in flexion rotation and taking those forces through your back. So you're just bound to blow out discs. I'm about an inch shorter now than I was when I first started racing, just because of all that like compressive forces in my back. So that's a good
Wow.
metaphor for or analogy for how much force you're putting on our body, and over that long of a career, and not having missed many races or seasons during those 17 years. Yeah, but it's a lot of weight through your body, literally.
So what do you like now that you're in your mid to late 30s? Like what are you thinking now that you're gonna do, like kind of keep your body in shape? Because obviously, like most people your age are not, their bodies aren't where yours are because they haven't been skiing professionally.
Yeah. I'm always an active person. I love mountain biking. I love hiking. Being in Park City, there's so many outdoor activities to do. I plan on still free skiing all the time as it is. Like I said, I have young kids, so being able to be active with them and do sports with them, and hopefully stay better at these sports than they are for a long time too.
You got a little while.
Yeah, so I definitely plan on being really active. I love playing like pickup sports and all that stuff. So once I get through this surgery and get through the recovery, then get back out there charging. Obviously, not at a professional sports level. I won't be in the gym, 5 days a week, but I still enjoy like working out. I don't plan on doing it at the level and extent that I'd had to before, but staying in shape is important for me and for my lifestyle. And, all my friends, like they're all faster than me on mountain bikes because they're all like scrawny little endurance guys now. And so now it's instead of being 200 pounds, I'll shrink down to 175 so I can try to keep up with them on the mountain bike and whatnot. So I'll stay active for sure.
Are you gonna are you gonna start doing like pickup basketball, something like that?
Yeah, within the ski team, we've done a lot of pickup sports over the years. So I'll stay active with them. And that's actually like, I keep joking with the guys that are still on the team, like, you guys better be ready for me this summer and pick up basketball. I'm coming for you. So we play a lot of pickup sports, even with like my friend group too. And so it's been fun.
What's your basketball skill set? Are you a shooter?
So I'm a 5'11" power forward center.
Oh, nice. Okay. Makes sense.
So that is most of my friends are in that height range to like 6'4".
Skiers. So yeah.
It's workable, and I'm a strong guy. But yeah, I've got the post moves with a power forward with some passing skills. I'm not the 3-point shooter. I can do a mid range or some low post moves, but these skills aren't translating to a game beyond a bunch of short guys.
Your game's getting obsolete out there.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Modeled after Karl Malone. So
Utah, I guess
foot of height there.
but you're from Salt Lake City, like or Park City, so you grew up like a big Jazz fan, I imagine.
Yeah, huge Jazz fans still to this day. Best team in the league right now. But yeah, grew up like watching the Stockton Malone era. Huge fan, especially those couple years we made the finals. So it's our only sports team in Utah, so you have to love them.
That's right. Yeah, unless you're like a big BYU fan, which is college.
I'm more of a University of Utah fan.
Oh, phew.
So yeah,
We
there's a
don't
little
want.
rivalry there too as well. But I follow the professional sports, I guess, more than the college side of things.
Yeah, I find myself now that I'm out of college doing that as well. Uh, I guess you have no choice in Utah. There's like unless you're like making some long strides. Uh, when you were skiing, I had Louis Vito on not that long ago. So he kind of told me about like the snowboarding side of it. But so he walked me through a day as a snowboarder, like what you do, because he's still a pro. So like training wise, eating. What's it like before you retired? Like when you're healthy, you're in season. What does a regular day look like for a professional skier?
Yeah, I mean, if I like go through a regular like training day, we're normally on the hill probably like around 8 o'clock. That means I'm waking up at like 5:30. I like work out for an hour and a half, spinning, stretching core. It's like getting the body warmed up to take those forces. Eating
Mhm.
breakfast, going out on the hill, free skiing a little bit, inspecting. So we're on the hill probably from like at 8 o'clock until 11. That's like our day on the hill. And taking anywhere between 4 to 10 runs in that time span, and then afterwards, getting out and eating lunch, recovering, then doing like sort of light workout in the afternoon, whether it be a game or out going on a run or spin bike or a little bit of lifting weights and stuff like that, and then PT, so therapy, like especially that's in my older age, spending an hour with the therapist, work on the back, keeping everything limber, trying to like work on any little aches and pains because they existed all the time, especially as I got older. And then watching video, uh, doing all that stuff, talking to my ski serviceman technician, then dinner, and then your day is pretty much over. So that's kind of a general breakdown right there.
And like so for skiing, you talk about G forces, you talk about your back a lot, especially as you age, and you kind of like watch certain parts of your body. Like what parts of your body are you focused on kind of to keeping an eye on, maybe working out a little more?
Yeah, when we work out, we're working out from basically like your pecs down, like core and legs are everything for us.
Yeah, yeah.
So the summertime, it's like squats, leg press, hammer curl, like yogis, the whole like bit on the lower body side of things, a lot of Olympic lifting, a lot of core, a lot of like posterior chain, like back and hamstring, glute stuff. So, and then like ski racing doesn't fit neatly into any like energy system. It's not like cycling where your watts per kilo is like what you live and die by. It's like more muscle endurance. So it's like ski racers have like we're not like we're a jack of all trades in a certain sense. We're like okay at a lot of different things. We're strong athletes. But there's stronger athletes and there's better athletes endurance wise, but we kind of sit in the middle world where we have to be pretty good at a lot of these things. Like strength is probably the only place where, weight ratio, like we'd be somewhat elite, but yeah, it doesn't like fit neatly into like a lot of energy systems like you see out there. So it's a very, really varied workout regime in the summertime. But I never really focus on the upper body. For me, it was like too much weight to carry down the hill and like was made you less efficient. So tons of core, tons of lower body, a lot of like muscle endurance, like anaerobic stuff as well.
So biceps, triceps, not much going on over there.
No, my legs are very scrawny. I mean, my arms are very scrawny compared to my legs. I don't know if you saw like that meme where it's like a husband's wife or boyfriend, girlfriend trying to do like the thing where they like put their arms in the ground and then sit up, and men couldn't do it because their center of mass was.
Oh yeah, yeah. I saw it on TikTok. Yeah,
Yeah. So that is no problem for me.
you can you can like
I've got the button legs, weight down that pulling up my upper body was no issue in that. So my center of mass, I guess, is a lot lower than general. So that kind of gives you. It makes it hard I'm not a surfer, but when I try to go surfing, it's always
yeah,
hard because I'm always just sinking the back of the boat or back of the board because
because it's not even.
I've got heavy big legs and scrawny arms, and so yeah, it definitely a different body type having been a ski racer all these years.
But I mean, I feel like what people, for first of all, in regards to that TikTok thing, I fell a couple times trying to do that. Like, it's not happening for me. Um, I feel like a lot of people don't realize that. Like, I mean, skiing is probably like on the extreme end of working out your legs, but for most sports, like you have to work out your legs like an awful lot, you know, and like upper body or like bis and tris, not all that useful for most sports, and people just don't even know that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it totally depends on the sport, but yeah, and most, I mean, if you need to get around somewhere with your legs, you need to work out your legs, right? So they're kind of like the basis for doing everything. There's not many sports otherwise that, upper body's where it's all at.
And the soreness is the worst when it's in your legs.
Yeah.
It's it knocks me out. I'm like, I'll take a week off.
Yeah.
So like so what about your nutrition? I mean, that's you talked about working out, it's a lot of different stuff on the hill, off the hill. And that's, during the season. I don't know what you're doing during the off season because you may not even be able to access skiing in the off season. But so what does your nutrition have to look like?
So like in ski racing, gravity is important. So trying to like maintain weight, that was always hard for me. So I eat a ton of calories, but definitely load up on the protein side of things. A lot of vegetables, a lot of meat and protein. I try to like, as I've gotten older, trying to stay away from like the sugar and that kind of thing, but not like I worked with like a dietitian one year and did like a strict whole ordeal, but I couldn't keep on weight. And in the wintertime, we're staying in hotels and we have very little control over what we're eating.
Yeah.
We're eating hotel food. Like you get what you get and you have to like eat it. Like we have some supplementation, like bars and whatever other stuff on the side, but like in the season, you don't have that much control at home and everything. Then yeah, I'm cooking for myself and I definitely can eat a lot healthier at home, but on the road, it's hard to have complete control over that. Cause yeah, we have cooks with us sometimes, but for the most part, it's hotel food. So that can be good and bad depending on where you're staying.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard of it ever being all that healthy, so I
Yeah.
understand that. How many calories a day do you think you were pulling in your prime?
Oh, it's hard to say.
Well, a range. It doesn't need to be like
Yeah,
a.
I don't know, like the 5,000 range. I was
Uh,
never good at like the calorie counting and diary. I could like give a list of like what I would eat, I guess, in a day, but
okay, I gotcha.
yeah. I never did the whole calorie counting thing. I think like my first year on the team, we stayed at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs for a month, and we did that then, and it was something absurd. It's not like a swimmer level calorie count. It's not like a
Yeah,
Michael Phelps like 8,000 calories or whatever it is in a day, but um, a lot of food for sure.
and that's like a healthy 5,000, right? So I feel like with a healthy 5,000, that means you have to take in a lot of weight in food. Am I correct in
Yeah,
saying
but
that?
I try to eat like a lot of fat too, like stuff with olive oil on it or like MCT oil or like fats are good for you too, nuts, all that stuff. So those are all like calorie dense foods as well.
Okay, yeah, I tried calorie counting once as well, and I did about 1 week of it. And I was like, all right, I'm calling it. I'm calling it. I'm calling it. So that's it's very interesting. 5,000's like it means you have to eat it like there's not a lot of time in between eating. I feel like if you're doing
Yeah,
5,000.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, 5 meals a day, basically. Yeah, four.
Five like full meals a day.
Yeah, I mean, depends on what type of the year where you are in your training and all that stuff. If you're doing 2 hard workouts a day, you're having a full meal right after a workout and right after both workouts. So yeah, you're
And
hungry.
then snacking in between, I imagine.
Yeah, exactly.
Whew, it's a lot of that. Just I feel like you're thinking about food so much at that point. I know we're running like on the back end here with only a couple more minutes left, so I want to just quickly kind of gloss over how you wrote some op-ed pieces. They're on your website if anyone wants to check them out, about the corruption. I guess I call it the corruption within the International Ski Federation. Um, you'd obviously they don't you don't need to go like into detail and like the specifics, but like just kind of like what's going on in the ski federation that's making it act like corrupt or kind of like a dictatorship.
So the impetus for those articles was, so this was 2012, 13 time frame, and they had changed the ski rules, and they're trying to like, it's kind of a farce. They're saying it was going to be safer, yet they didn't really do any research. They didn't ask the athletes. And so the main like point and reason behind that was saying like, hey, like the athletes are the main stakeholders here, and like especially when it comes to like rules and equipment and all that stuff, you should ask what we feel and our opinion and what our like what like our real like at least have the real data and like ask us about it. And so they pushed through rules that are pretty tough on the direction of skiing, um, without our input. And then also on that, there's like some sponsorship rules and stuff like as far as logo size for they're actually like centered around goggles and helmets, which directly affected me as a business owner, but making logos smaller, which diminished the value of an athlete to a sponsor and all sorts of things like this, but generally done without any athlete input. I think FIS has gotten better as far like there's so much pushback in those couple of years that there's more athlete representation of the higher side of things. But in general, with all these like big sporting federations, like based in Switzerland, there's no like transparency about like what's going on in the back end of things. There'll be a new FIS president this year, and hopefully actually the guy who is the CEO of Head Skis, which is one of my sponsors, is running for that. So if he ends up winning that, that should change things a lot and bring it back into the 21st century and make it much more, transparent and equitable for all the stakeholders and all that stuff. So it's always like a tough balance with these, international federations. They're trying to like hold on to their little fiefdom, and it's somewhat short-sighted and all that. So that was kind of the basis for that. And I think all sports in the last, 5-10 years have realized, after like the FIFA scandals and all this, have realized that they really need to have a more transparent and equitable way of running things, and having athlete input is a big piece of that. So I think the world is moving in a better direction now versus like back when I wrote those 8 or so years ago.
We've seen a lot of just kind of, especially in the last year or two, a lot of just like athletes getting their voice. I know cycling has a huge issue with their like with their federation. Was there pushback? Because you wrote that 2012, you were around the prime of your career at that point. Was there any like repercussions for you writing like against the International Ski Federation?
Not in like a direct way. I mean, they like were tighter and monitoring. Like I remember after like the first race that year, I was drug tested 4 times and within a week.
Wow.
Like, so like drug testing is random, but like
yeah.
So there's ways, there wasn't anything they could really do other than make like things a little bit more annoying, I guess, in some ways. And like I always had to like get my like they kind of randomly test boots in the finish area, like the stand height and all that stuff. And I had my boots tested every race and stuff like that. So like, yeah, it's hard to say like what the randomness of that and a little bit of targeting. I mean, at the time I was winning a lot of races and winning some of them by big margins. So, I mean, it makes sense to test the best guy as well in those circumstances, but it felt a little more targeted those couple of years than others.
Well, yeah, four drug tests in 1 week sure does look that way.
Yeah.
That's great. It's like I hear about this in all the sports, just the reading about the guys who speak back and then drug test. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Thank you for enlightening me on the whole skiing world, because I knew very little about it. My brother is a skier in the family, and it's not me. Oh, cool. So I'm like, but
I'm just on the slopes, man.
I do.
Yeah, you got to get out on the slopes. Good time.
I know. My excuse has been that it's too expensive, but I realize that it's getting cheaper as well, as long as you're not going to like the big places. So
yeah, and if you commit to going 4 or 5 times a year, then there's ways to make it a lot cheaper. To go just once, it's pretty expensive for one go at it. But yeah,
once, that's a waste of money, like for sure. A couple times you're good. So maybe we'll see. Thank you so much, Kanan. Thank you for letting me bother you. Where can we find you?
I guess the most active platform I'm on is Instagram. So Ted_Ligety, I think is what I am nowadays. Tedligety on Twitter. Those are probably the best ways to follow what I'm doing and what I'm putting out there and all that stuff. So yeah.
And check out Ted's company, Shred Optics, as well, if you're interested in
Exactly.
buying
Yeah,
any
sure. Optic.
outerwear, cycling, snowboarding, skiing.
Exactly.
So yeah, so check out Ted at Ted Ligety or Ted_Ligety for Instagram, and check out Polling Strangers on at Polling Strangers on Instagram. And thank you for watching, and everyone stay safe.
Thank you.